Hello, everyone. Welcome to How to Be Productive Working from Home. I'm Carla Brondo, CEO of Brondo Power Institute, and I'm delighted to share with you the lessons I have learned personally from working from home. What I share is everything you need to know to be productive during this crisis, and when you return to work, most of those principles will apply. Before the coronavirus changed our life as we notice, it's likely that you worked from home every once in a while. You know, maybe when the winter storm blew through or the plumber was coming about noon. You checked email, made a call or two, and took stock of what could wait until you returned to the office. But when you're remote full-time, that leisure schedule is not sustainable. Remote work is a brilliant idea in this coronavirus world. It is saving lives. So we were all obedient. We packed up and headed home. Now, are you wondering how to be really productive? Are you missing some of your work buddies? Are you running into some challenges working from home? Have you discovered that it's no walk in the park or day at the beach because you have so many new challenges? You might be feeling lonely. You might have technology issues. I hope you brought all of your logins home with you, but maybe your internet isn't quite as fast, especially when everyone is downloading and using Netflix. You might have more social media distractions, and there may be no clear boundaries between work and home. So is it harder to be as productive as you thought it would be? Because we get all excited sometimes about working from home, and then we look at the drawbacks. You know, the kids running around the house, the dog that wants to play, chores, and we have less access to the resources and the collaborative environment that the workplace does provide. So let's dig into some of these things, because after a few days, you may be in one of two of these camps: those who can't motivate themselves to start working and those who can't convince themselves to stop. It may become difficult to have set working hours and remain motivated when you're at home. I know some people who work too much because they aren't technically leaving the workplace. They work all the time from their computer, and they've just taken their computer home. There are others who aren't as productive because they don't have established work hours and aren't getting positive feedback to keep them engaged. So there are no real endings. We're just a new beginning, a new way of working, a new way of life. Studies show that working from home can lead to a happier, more productive individual. And we're not sure what will happen to remote work once the corona crisis is over. But we do know that this is a new beginning, especially for you who are working from home, perhaps for the first time. I want this new beginning for you to be full of purpose, energy, self-discipline, life balance, and new productivity levels. So, as this is just a new beginning, let's look at the old day work rhythms that we used to have and contrast that with the new workday patterns that we have. The old workday was to shower, eat, pack lunch, get on the road, punch in, break, take a break, have lunch, break, head home again. And now the new workday, some of us may be caught in this whenever. Shower, maybe. Punch in, do I have to? Break time, Lunch, I just had break. Break time? Oh, I just had one. Head home? Can I stop now? So what I'm going to suggest to you today is that your old workday had good rhythms in it. And the new workday, we can carry out some of the same rhythms that we had. What I'm going to suggest to you today is that you exercise, shower, have your coffee, breakfast, and at 7 o'clock, you have no commute. This is a big blessing to a lot of people that live in metro areas where it might take you 45 minutes to an hour to get to work. So you have a little bit of free time here, a gift of time, and you have to say, what am I going to do with it? Are you ready to start work early, or do you need to do more research? Is there something that you can read that's informative? Then at 8 o'clock you start or you continue work, whichever, because remember, you have a lot of flexibility. You're in control of your own schedule because you can take the breaks when you decide. And I highly recommend that at lunchtime you have a video chat with a friend, you check your social media, you have virtual lunches with them, and it breaks, you can slip in chores around the house, and then you stop work. So once again, there's no commute. So how will you fill the time? That's the question. And I know that you've got plenty on your plate that you can do, but let's make it productive time. So some of the first things we have to do when we're beginning work at home is to decide where you are going to work. You have to have a designated area. And this designated area could be in your bedroom. Maybe you have an end table there that you can work on. It could be in the kitchen. Maybe you have a space there, a bar that you can use. Perhaps you want to just clear off a space on the cupboard. You might set up a card table, but you have to have a designated area. If you're going to work in the kitchen, make sure that it's not too close to the refrigerator, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Another new beginning is that you have to decide what your work hours will be and when you take breaks. Now, you do need the breaks because we're not computers and we're not robots. We can't work endlessly. We have to have some breaks to renew our body and to refresh our mind. So what daily rhythms will you put in place as you're starting this work at home? And you want a daily schedule because it helps you to keep to the deadlines that you have for work being finished. So let's start. What will be your morning routine? You have a big decision. Will you just keep getting up at 6 o'clock? Will you exercise? Do you have a stationary bicycle or do you have a Peloton? Do you want to do an exercise program from the internet? I have a yoga program that I do on my TV from the internet, and it really helps me get the day started. And by the way, I don't exercise because I want to look like the really thin models like Kylie Jenner, because it's obviously not working, but I do it because it helps me to have more energy and more mental alertness. In fact, it helps every facet of my life, even my attitude, and my husband really appreciates that. And perhaps you'll rediscover the outdoors, and you may rediscover your pet. Or you may rediscover that it's fun walking with your children or with your spouse or your partner. So there's a lot of things that we can do after work and before work that help us have better health and better rhythms to our work. And I have to ask the question, do you really want to spend every day in your jammies? It is tempting. And I know in virtual meetings, the question is, do I really have to turn on my video? But remember, it's only from the waist up, so you can wear purple jogging suits if you really want to. Now, so what my recommendation is to you is you try to get a rhythm in where you exercise. And I recommend exercising in the morning, showering, putting on your business clothes, having your coffee and breakfast together, and read the headlines or read the news, whatever you do, and then you start work. Now this has worked for me, this schedule, but I have to tell you a story about a friend of mine who took a job to work from home specifically, and this was 3 or 4 years ago, and he lived in New York. And so he found the first couple or 3 weeks of his work at home was really hectic, not productive. And then he decided to try this regimen. So he would get up in the morning, exercise, shower, put on his business clothes, and then being in New York, he went out to one of the little coffee shops, bought him a cup of coffee, read the news, and then he came back and started work. And this is a good schedule for all of us to follow. And as you can see, that also applies to when you go back to work. This is just a productive way to be. Now, the next thing I recommend is that you check in with your manager. You want to be proactive, asking him or her questions, setting goals for your productivity. You want to be available to him or her, and you want to communicate your progress. This is important because many managers are very nervous. They're very nervous about people working from home because I think they have these images in their head. They're nervous because they're afraid that you might be, reading a novel, letting your clothes sitting in that dryer getting wrinkled. Or maybe they think you're out having a casual game of tennis. Or maybe they think you're spending the whole day playing video games. And this one I love. I'm not sure what that flower is going to do to her computer, but you don't want these kind of images in your manager's head. You want him to know, or her to know, that you are on top of it and that you have a daily schedule, that you have work that you're going to get turned in, and that he can trust you to do that. So it all comes down to some time management principles, to self-discipline and self-management. I like this picture because it looks like the chaos that's all around us when we have so many tasks to do and so many sticky notes flying at us, so many texts, so many instant messages, so many emails. And as you calm the chaos, what I want you to know today is that planning and prioritizing is the work of worrying. In other words, we can just sit there with all these things we have to do and worry about how to get them done, or we can start the planning and prioritizing process. Now, I was a young lady that in the 7th grade had a to-do list tattooed on my forehead. And so teaching time management was a natural to me. And when I started reading the formal literature about time management, there was one story that popped up in almost every single book I read. And the principles it teaches are apropos to what we're trying to do here working from home. It's the story of Charles Schwab, who was the president of the Bethlehem Steel, and he wanted to get more done with his time. So we called in a consultant named Ivy Lee, and he promised to pay him any fee within reason. Now, wouldn't that make a consultant's eyes get huge? His advice to Charles Schwab was, before you leave, and I put in stop work, okay, because we're working at home now. We don't really leave unless we actually leave the house. Before you stop work, make a list of everything you have to do the next day. This is kind of like a master task list. So you make a list of everything you want to get done. Excuse me. Let's ask the question, why do you do it before you leave or stop work? Well, you want to capture all unfinished tasks while they're fresh on your mind, because we're very optimistic about what we can get done during the day. But seldom do you get everything done in that day, because we have high important tasks to do, but then we have so many small distractions and small tasks that people asking us to do things, asking us questions and interrupting us. So it's very seldom that you get everything done in one day. So you want to check off what you did so you feel really good about yourself, and then you want to move things to the next day while they're fresh on your mind, because you don't want to expend energy the next morning trying to think, now, where was I and what do I need to start on? That's all taken care of before you leave work or stop work. Then why do you do it before you stop work? Well, you want to close the door on work and open the door to your personal life. And this is a good principle, whether you're working at home or whether you are working at the office. And I have this picture of the woman leaving the office. And by the way, when I would leave the office, I never really felt that energized or looked that good. So we want to close the door on work and open the door to our personal life. Now, one of the reasons why you do it before you stop work is because you want to permit complex tasks to cook on the back burner during your, quote, downtime. And I don't know if this has happened to you, but so many times I have been anxious about a decision or a project, not knowing where to go, what to do. And I'll go to sleep at night, and when I wake up in the morning, I have a brilliant idea. And this will help you as well if you know what you want to focus on or concentrate on or think about during your down hours. And then he said, this is step number 2. He said, identify your top 5 or 6 items that you must complete tomorrow. This is so important for you. You want to complete them, and you know, by the way, this is what starts the process of prioritizing. Is that just identify 5 or 6 items. Remember, the first step was to write down everything you had to do. And now the process is to start prioritizing. So you're picking that 5 or 6. Then it says, identify the number 1 task you need to complete and commit to doing it first thing in the morning. Okay, now there's a very important point here. It says, commit to doing it first thing in the morning. So you identify the number 1 task out of that 5 or 6, and then you say, I'm going to start on this first thing in the morning. So when you start work the next morning, you start on that number one task and you stick with it until you're finished. Now this means even if you get interrupted, you come back to that task. And the reason why is because once you check it off, you have a great feeling of accomplishment. And it's like me, who could have guessed that I could have actually gotten something significant done today with all the interruptions. And so you want to stick with it until you're finished. Then Ivy Lee told Charles Schwab, when you are finished, reprioritize the list and go to item number 2 and complete the list in this manner. And he said to Charles Schwab, when it works for you, give it to your men. When it works for your men, pay me what you think it's worth. And 6 months later, Ivy Lee got a check from Charles Schwab for $25,000. And he told him it was the single most important thing he had ever learned. And $25,000 was a lot more in 1930 than it is today. So you can see that this is not brain surgery, but it definitely takes self-discipline and self-management to do this. So that would be one of the greatest things that if you take away nothing from this webinar today, take that away, that you want to close out your day and plan tomorrow. And then you can enjoy your evening, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, enjoy your pets, enjoy your social media, enjoy whatever you want because you know where to start the next morning. I don't know if you relate to this picture, but often I feel really overwhelmed and I feel like I'm underwater on things. And I thought this described it and it depicted it so well. You know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And what I would say to you is it's time to focus. And in order to focus, you need a to-do list, a calendar, and a place to take notes. And there's lots of things that work for your to-do list. A pen and paper, you know, your old pad, legal pad works. I prefer Outlook. Some people prefer Google, but you also have Evernote. And then you have all these apps that you can put on your phone. So there's just a plethora of places that you can make a to-do list. So if you aren't in the habit of doing that, I would start, because once you get things down on a to-do list, it's so much easier to check them off. And your mind isn't wondering what to do next because you know it's right there in front of you. So to-do list is a must, whether you're at work in the office or whether you're at work at home. And don't forget that you need a calendar. Now, my philosophy is that a calendar isn't just for meeting and appointments, but it's to plan your daily workflow. So you can see here that I have shower, dress, as we've been talking about, eat breakfast, check the headlines, read something motivational. You start work, you check your email, your instant messages, your text, and then you check in with your manager. Then you work on the HD project or call clients or whatever. Now, what this means is that you are working on the highest priority item and you're totally focused. I would say during this 1 hour that you're totally focused, that you don't turn off your email, turn off your text, turn off whatever, because you want to focus on your work. Get it done, get most of it done, get it out of the way, and then you can enjoy the interruptions. And I put this in green because to me, green means money, and it means anything I have to do to keep my job, anything I have to do to keep food on the table. Then you can see after I've worked, I take a virtual break, I answer emails, texts, instant messages, and then we have a virtual Zoom meeting with the team. And I want to send out assignments from that team meeting before I go to lunch. So I go to lunch and I have a virtual lunch scheduled, but I'm going to throw in some wash. And then once again, I'm going to focus. I'm going to work on whatever I need to do to keep my job. And then we'll have another virtual break. We'll return emails, texts, and instant messages. Then we will focus again for a few minutes. And remember that at the end of the day, your energy level is running down. So this might be a good time to have conversations with other people about challenges. It might be a perfect time to reconnect with someone who is helping you with the project, just to see how they're coming and if they're getting the information ready that you need. But then you come down to close out your day. And close out your day is a time when you, as I said, you're looking at things that you've completed and you're checking them off, and then you are planning forward for tomorrow. I thought you might be interested in this reverse scheduling concept. When I was doing a live program, I had a young lady say, "Oh, I thought reverse scheduling was canceling appointments." I laughed at that. But no, reverse scheduling means that you know that the telco project is due on the 28th of the month. And then you know it's going to take you about, 35, 40 hours. So you start deciding how much time you can allot to it each day. And what this does is get you real motivated at the first of the month. Because as you see here, you're backing it up and you're saying, ooh, I forgot I have that convention in Chicago. And nothing happens the day before you leave or the day after. And so you come in and you back up all of those hours that you're going to work on it. And as I said, you get real motivated the first of the month. So you're not spending 2 all-nighters on the 26th and 27th. So this is called reverse scheduling. And what we're looking at is focus is the key to getting things done and not being interrupted, but knowing exactly what you have to do and what you're going to focus on. And my suggestion to you is that you know what you're going to do with each major block of time. So what are you going to accomplish in the morning and what are you going to accomplish in the afternoon with everything else that's going on in your life and in your schedule? And this is closing out your day is one of the things that will help you understand that return on investment. And remember, closing out your day is just planning tomorrow's productivity before you shut down for the day and move into your personal life. So now that you are all organized, let's talk about some other issues. If you're lonely and your cat isn't doing it for you, then schedule your social media chats and FaceTime calls with coworkers and friends. I say schedule because remember, you have to focus to get your work done. But the thing to remember is that these social media chats and the FaceTime calls when we can't actually see each other energizes you. And it starts oxytocin going through your body. So be sure to plan some of those things that will give you energy throughout the day. Because if you just work all by yourself, it can be pretty much of a downer. Remember that the connections that you have and the things that you're doing on social media is that glue that helps you stick together. So we're social distancing now, which is physical distancing, but that doesn't mean that you're shutting down or shutting yourself off from friends and family. And you can see here what a virtual lunch would look like. So have some fun at lunch, and you can also have virtual breaks, or you can have virtual happy hours, whatever you want to do, but keep connecting with your friends. Now we know that we're going to be using video chat and video conferencing for our meetings. And this shows you how many people can connect. It shows you their pictures so you can see their faces. It shows their video cameras. And a couple of suggestions to keep the rapport up, to keep the morale up with people, is that when you start these video meetings, have something fun at the beginning. The one down here on the bottom shows the dog. You know, what's your favorite pet here at home with you? Share it with other people. Then you can start with an icebreaker for fun. Like, what is your favorite food? It's not going to take people long to say that. What is the vegetable you love to hate? I have found that most of the time that's broccoli. What was your first job? When I dance, I look like, you don't want to know. Then you might even ask, what are you grateful for today? Because we have to have strategies to keep us emotionally up in this time when a lot of things are depressing to us. Now, another thing that you want to consider is, how do people prefer to communicate? And these are just some guidelines here that you might want to use. If it's just one sentence that you want to communicate to someone, use a chat. If it's one paragraph, then you might want to use an email. If it's more than 3 paragraphs, consider a phone call, because it gets long to type it out or to put it into that email, or the text is even worse. I can keyboard really fast. I'm not as good at texting, but I can get an email out quickly. So if that's good in the email, you've got 1 or 2 paragraphs. If it's more than that, give them a phone call. And if you have more questions than 5, then you might want to do a video call with them. And on the video call or in the video meeting, if you're taking more than 5 minutes to explain something, then I would brush up on your PowerPoint and use a slide deck. Because sometimes people think differently, people have different personalities, And they need to be able to have information come in a modality of different ways, in a multimodality. So use visual with them and help them understand from what you're saying and what you're also showing them. You'll have a lot greater success here. And just some final reminders. Work and home are intertwined. So you want to protect your time and set boundaries in both areas. And you want to be able to set the boundaries for people around you in your house too. Try to have times when you are not interrupted and times when you're playing with others, talking with others, and sharing good times. Now, this is a personal comment to you that I have learned. Don't do this, meaning we love these little babies, but I know from experience that those little babies can take those fingers and pull every key off of your keyboard. So be real careful with that. And beware of thinking by the refrigerator. You can see here that you can, when you walk up to that refrigerator, of course, the refrigerator hides all kinds of things, does it not? But not only do you get distracted by what's in the refrigerator, but you get, you get distracted by everywhere you've been and all the vacations you've taken. So beware of that refrigerator. And I think we all know why to beware of the refrigerator, because it's so easy to put on pounds when you're sitting at home and thinking and eating. That's one of my problems, because when I'm thinking about something, I don't know why, but I wander and get something to eat. That's a bad, bad habit. And so we have choices, choices, and choices to make. Make sure you have those bananas and apples and oranges handy. And put the donuts and candy in a little harder place to find. So try that as a suggestion. Now, keeping kids busy is an entire webinar of its own. And this may be a time when you can rediscover some of the beauties of your children. I know of a family that has 4 boys under the age of 6, and both the husband and wife are working from home now. So they're taking turns taking care of the kids and working. But you can imagine what that is like at home. Now, sometimes you may absolutely get bored. And I don't know if this ever happens to you, but if you get all your work done or you're mentally and emotionally exhausted and you have to quit for the day, then you may be getting bored. So what I suggest to you is that you have this time and spend this time to learn new skills, get new training. You can learn a new language, take an online class, learn Excel, take a Udemy class, read a new book, watch a documentary. Just the other night, I watched a documentary on Pavarotti, the great tenor, that he died from if I can say it right, pancreatic cancer about 2003, I believe it was. But it was fabulous to watch this man that had such a tremendous talent. But he also, I was watching his personality all the way through it. And he was so, if you are familiar with the DISC model, he was so high I or influencer, such an influencer. And he had such a connection with people. And I learned a lot from that documentary. So spend a little time doing that. And of course, you could write a letter to mom or to your grandma. You may rediscover Mario and Luigi. And do you play Scrabble? I have played Scrabble before. I have a hard time getting past the 3 or 4 letter words, but the only day that I really won Scrabble is when I spent the whole day studying the Q words in the dictionary. But here's a word for you that has no vowels, cruth. It's an ancient Celtic string instrument. So if you're going to play Scrabble, remember that. And I know one couple that were so bored that they pulled out a 5,000 piece puzzle. Now, that's a challenge. So you may be glad to get back to work. And so as we're just looking at these new beginnings, there's one other point. You can be grateful for the things that you do have. I love this picture because it's kind of mind-boggling. Is the glass half empty or half full? And as we look for the positive and what's happening to us, as we look for the things that we can be grateful for, we're going to feel more like the glass is half full than half empty. And that is a mental attitude that will help you get through what we are going through now, because it can be very depressing to us. So be grateful for what you have. And I guess if you can handle a laugh today, be grateful that you have toilet paper, because a lot of stores are out. So be grateful for what you have and leverage this time to develop new skills. I love this quote by Winston Churchill, which I just found this morning. He says, "A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty." And I believe that's what will make us get through this crisis, is to be able to see the opportunity in the difficulties that are around us. So your entire team is climbing the mountain. Remember this. Remember to be kind to them, to give them the benefit of a doubt. Be sure to deliver so the team members will trust you, and continue to collaborate with them. Set team goals for productivity. Keep the communication flowing between you. Be available to them and communicate your progress with them. Because remember, this is just a new beginning. So thank you for coming today. I don't know if there are any questions, but if you want to type them in your question box there, we will give a minute or two for that. And I'd like to ask you, how can I help you in the future? You know, what else would you like to know? Because I am an expert in personalities and in driving forces. Those assessments can be debriefed over the phone, and we can even have group meetings to debrief these assessments. I do 360-degree assessments and leadership development and coaching, team building, stress management, and of course, time management and technology. And this is a good time to start looking forward to the skills that you want when we're back in full swing at work. So there's one question here. Will we get the PowerPoint as a handout? Yes, I can make that available to you. I'll just put yes there. Are there any other questions? Yes, no problem. Should have been we, yes, no problem. Well, I would just like to close this then and thank you all for coming today. And remember the golden nuggets out of today. Hopefully you had 2 or 3 aha moments and 2 or 3 things that you can actually implement and put to work. But just remember to set you a schedule. It's flexible. You can take the breaks when you want, but just remember that every day you have to have some focused work. And then use the time that you have that you're not commuting or that you're not having to put on all your makeup and get ready for work and drive there. Use that time to improve yourself and to get ready for when we go back to work full time. Thank you so much. I'll be doing another one of these next week, so look for the information. Have a great day. Goodbye.